Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Royal Instinct. Today we're going to be watching a video by Chris Williamson, an interview done with a guy called Destiny, where they're talking about the Google Images fiasco, where if you asked it to depict a a German Nazi, it will show you a picture of a Chinese woman, just for diversity and inclusion effects. And again, this is a little glimpse into what's to come, that they're gonna, I don't know if this is the right word, but whitewash, ethnically wash. It's an ethnic cleansing of history, right? Just for and this is the power that AI has. You know, you might say, oh, of course this is incorrect because we know how, you know, that the Nazis were white German people. However, if you have 10, 20, 30 years of this, a whole generation being force-fed fake images, you end up forgetting your history. And this is how dangerous technology can become.
This most recent thing with Gemini, with Google's,
oh God, I don't even know. What is this?
Google's AI disaster. Have you not seen this?
No, my mind has been all studying for this debate. Yeah, what's this?
Allow me to educate you.
Go ahead.
Google.
Oh, wait. Is this the thing where when you ask for pictures, it's always of like black people and Asian people?
That would be correct.
Okay, I've seen the memes. I don't know anything else about it.
Okay, so I don't know it in depth, but I'll try and give you a good overview. It tried to be so anti-racist that it ended up being racist.
Okay.
And it annoyed people on the left because if you asked for an image of some Nazis, it was black Nazis. And then it annoyed people on the right because if you asked for an image of the founding fathers, it was black founding fathers. So everybody got pissed off.
So in the end, only ethnic minorities exist. Only black people exist. Only Chinese people exist. Only Indian people exist. I'm of Indian heritage. I'm Punjabi. You know, am I happy with this AI Google thing? You know, or this whole woke movement? You know, I believe in equality in terms of, you know, if the best person for that role, right? But if it's equality in the sense of you know, you get it just because you're an ethnic minority, it kind of, you know, feels disingenuous. It's like you didn't really earn that spot. That's why, you know, and it creates weakness in people, right? It creates victim mentality. You know, like someone like me, people would imagine should be all for this sort of stuff, but it's like, you know, it's something that's built upon lies, you know, only leads to negative outcomes. So, you know, I don't believe that there's any inherent value in having these ethnic quotas and this fake inclusion.
And then it sort of it did a combination of hid and erased history in this regard. But
again, that's really important. Hidden, erased history, right? And you might say, oh, you know, they're including people of ethnic minorities. Well, if how does it look if we all know that Nazis are bad people, right? That they were the worst people ever in history, the worst organization, let's call it, right? And then you have a few generations, right? And then Google AI depicts these people as black Nazis, right? And then you have a few generations of people who only see images of black Nazis. People will forget that they were white Nazis, right? The actual physical image of a Nazi will be a black person. Is this the equality that they're trying to create, right? Does that not cause more racial hatred, right? If you discount what actually happened, right, and you create a false narrative, what if they just want to get rid of a whole group of people, right? They could do that, right? So again, you know, just because something might benefit you in the short term, and you know, it's very inclusive. In the long term, it could be even worse for the people that it's trying to protect.
People were using it using its anti-racism to be really racist. So they would say something like, can you give me an image of 14th century philosophers drinking grape juice and eating watermelon? And it would be 4 black people drinking grape juice and eating watermelon. So just the whole retroactive changing of history after the Super Bowl thing where they corrected Alicia Keys' voice, I think at the start, it's all part of some, like a big constellation of different data points that are making people very concerned about what's happening to history and what's unacceptable. It also has implications for whether or not Google itself is a reliable search. Is it going
And that's an important point to note, right? If you're being force fed all this fake diversity, all this fake inclusion, you can't then trust the source, right? Okay, and if you can't trust the source, right, and if all books are moving online, if everything's moving online, right, and the tools online that you use, things like Google, right, which also owns YouTube, you know, all these social media networks, if they're lying about just what color Nazis were, what color the founding fathers were, how have you got any? And this is just a fact, a historical fact, right? And they're lying to you about that. How can you trust them with relevant information in terms of what's healthy? You know, what are health risks? And soon we're going to get to a place where you're being manipulated so much that you won't be able to trust the source where the information came from. The other thing is, though, most people are too naive, I think that's the correct word, to question the sources. And if you have a whole generation that grew up with, like, see, I grew up pre-internet, so I kind of have some level of skepticism. However, if all you've known is, if you're born into an internet era, and you've grown up with the internet, and all you know is how to use the internet to find meaning in the world, then you're going to take that information at face value. The information, the source, which literally becomes your god at that point. You know, and this is going to get, you know, worse and worse, because AI is here. AI is going to take over. AI already is in the, you know, invasion stage, where they're going to dictate how civilization is played out, how the human race plays out, what information you're allowed to have, what information you're not allowed to have. You know, we're at the end game here, guys. You know, if you want to protect yourself, the only thing that's left for you to do before AI comes is for you to grow your own audience online, for you to have a fan base, for you to become an influencer, be seen as someone who's an authority in your field of expertise, become a leader, become the leader that you always wish you had when you were younger. And it's very easy. All it takes is balls. It takes courage to go into the, you know, into the darkness, into the unknown, and become someone who's relevant in society. You know, because most people are too scared to do it, right? And I'm only looking for 100 people to come on this journey with me. If you want to become someone who's famous, if you want to become someone who is seen as a king, if you want to be someone who's treated as a king, build a kingdom, get recognized for your talents, get recognized for your intelligence, for your smarts. If you want to be someone who is a decision maker in the world, then I suggest you go to rawlinstinct.com, become a subject matter expert. I will show you how to become someone who's famous, become a king, and live the life that you always knew you deserved, because AI will erase you from history.
to deliver information in a way which is actually factual, like, given that so many people are going to use that to try and find something out. What if all of the real stuff is hidden down on page fucking 5?
Yeah.
You don't know. So yeah, I mean, from a branding position, very bad. I could not have done it more poorly than this. And it's probably, according to Mike Baker, it's probably gone through a million different. This isn't the sort of thing. It's not like a Bud Light thing that perhaps was just one part of the marketing department that threw a case of six pack at Dylan Mulvaney. This has gone through an awful lot of layers before it's got here. So it doesn't seem like it's happened by accident.
So you think there was like an intentional ploy to make it like not racist, or?
I think that they are force feeding diversity in so much. Obviously, they didn't mean for it to be so apparent that like anyone with the most basic prompt in history could create something which had a standout. Like you can't make it to make a family of white, or you couldn't get it to make a family of white people. I think the only way you could get it to make white people is if you ask for Ukrainians.
Yeah, because the crisis in Ukraine falls under the woke agenda. I mean, white people exist, right? White people are not. See, this is the thing about demonizing white people. White people are just as fucked as the rest of us, right? Because the majority of white people are actually poor people, right? They're part of the lower classes. There's a few middle class families that, yeah, of course, they lived here in the UK, in Scandinavian countries, in European countries for generations, so they're gonna accumulate some sort of wealth compared to ethnic minorities who've only been part of the system for a few years. However, they don't hold the true power, but just because they have a particular skin color that the blame gets assigned to. Like, for example, a lot of people, right, of all races, of all ethnicities, of all genders, blame old white men for the cause of their problems, right? Most old white men have zero power. Most old white men are dying alone, in care homes, right? Most old, not even old white men, most white men, literally just have a job. They go to the job, they make a little bit of money, and that's it, right? That's 80%, 90% of white men in this country, in all countries, in the whole world, right? They hold no true power. They hold no true vote or say in anything, right? There's a select few people who might happen to be white men, right? And they hold some power, and that now means that all white people are demons just because of this. It's not true. It's false. It's a divide and conquer strategy. It's a distraction mechanism where you thinking that the boogeyman is this person, but this is a war of classes, of elites versus non-elites. And the only way you're going to survive is if you become an elite yourself. The only way to become an elite in today's society, the easiest way, is by becoming a subject matter expert, is by garnering attention online, building a network, building a fan base where people come to you and see you as the authority in one aspect or another. You might turn around to me and say, oh, but I don't have any skills, I don't have any special insight into any field. Well, I can show you how you can become a subject matter expert, how you can become someone who's famous, someone who can become someone that has their own audience, someone who has their own platform, where they can start monetizing it, making money, building their kingdom, building their rank and status in society, rise to the top, build your kingdom, become a king, and then you can fight alongside me, and we can try and overthrow these evil people. We'll replace them. We are more entertaining. We're smarter. We have a stronger network. Imagine being friends with 100 other kings, such as myself. Right? Who would want to fuck with you? Who would want to fuck with us? We'll have the most fun in life. Because the world that the elites want is for them to control all resources. Right? They don't want you to have any resources. They don't want you to have any fun. They don't want you to have the ability to, have children, for you to have any sexual partners. They want all the beautiful women to themselves. They don't want you to have any say in the decisions of for the future to come. Before there was wars in the world. Obviously there's still a few wars going on right now, but now the real war is psychological. It's a war of finances, of resources, right? It's and by opting into all these social media platforms, you are, and just by being a consumer, you are signing up to voluntary slavery, for voluntary enslavement, voluntary imprisonment. And if you want to avoid this, you have to use those platforms to your own advantage. You have to become a influence on them. You have to, and you see it yourself, right? How many influencers do you follow online, right? That's where all the attention goes. That's where all the money goes. And then once you have some, see, the thing is, most influencers don't use this step. They don't know. They monetize it, and then they just get greedy and then just accumulate resources. But they don't use it for good. All right. They don't decide to make the world a better place where you can do something much more lasting in the world, something much more helpful to the world, something that the world needs. Then the world needs leaders, right? Your leaders have sold you out, right? Your political leaders, whoever's in charge of your country, they've sold you out, right? They've been infiltrated by the WEF, and you can only, you do your own research into it. It's like, right, the people think it's a conspiracy theory. It's like, all right, like read up on it and then tell me how much of it is fiction, right? I mean, these are things that are coming down the line, right? Central bank digital currencies, they're coming. They're going to track you, and they'll erase most of you out of existence without you knowing.
But it was like a Native American president, and show me an image of the king of Spain from the 18th century, and it's like a black guy.
Do you know what else this can actually lead to? So you might say, oh, right, like, yeah, we don't want to see just white people being the founding fathers. Well, if you make, right, for example, if if you get a picture of a slave owner, right, in the 1700s, 1600s, whatever, right, from Southern America, right, from a southern state in America, right, and if it's depicted online as a black person, right, you can use that tool to erase the history of slaves. You can then just erase slavery from existence. So then, there was never an issue because slaves never existed. Black slaves never existed. Right? You can literally flip it and reverse it, and then, and then imagine like you have a generation of people force fed that it was actually black people who enslaved white people, and then the white people start asking for reparations for black people. Like, imagine if you just had that whole movement in America right now, where white people get tricked into believing that they were the real slaves, right? Black people get tricked into believing that they were the slave owners, and then you have white people paying reparations to the black people. Like, it's crazy. It's like this is a dangerous slope that we're on, and there's no way to stop it. There's no way to stop it, right? Like, unless you, right? Unless the only way to stop it is if us kings, right, go to raw instinct, become kings, build your kingdom, and then we become billionaires, trillionaires, and form our own social media platforms where we, preserve facts at least. But that we are on a dangerous slope to the eradication of facts.
Mm-hmm. So I think that it was force feeding diversity, and you can ask it things like, show me your working, or explain to me why you did this. And it's just the most rudimentary, basic, wokey talking points, like the most cringe, like, it is important that we represent people from diverse backgrounds, and like, just, it was that. So there wasn't much complexity to it, but this force feeding of diversity plays into the DEI concern that a lot of people have at the moment. And it's just more distraction. I'm like, God, like if this hadn't happened, if you just made it an accurate representation of what people needed, but now we've got another, and right now, this very moment, could be talking about something else that would be really useful, but it's another important cultural moment to try and dissect, to work out what's going on. And it just, every single time, it pushes us back, pushes us back.
You know, like this guy, Chris Williamson, like I would call him just a commentator on times. He tries to talk about basically what's going on in the world right now and tries to find solutions to it. Whether he does a good job, I don't think so. Because his solutions are too late. They're too. Even this guy doesn't think he's woke, but he's too affected by the wokeism culture that you don't want to say the wrong thing. And yeah, he's got big brand deals. You know, he enjoys the fame as well. Like, why is he doing what he's doing? Right, there's two famous people talking about what should be done in the world. It's the only job left there is. Right, you become someone who's relevant. Become someone who's famous. It's the only thing that AI can't displace, right? It's kind of but even the whole feel of his channel is kind of gossipy. It's two people just talking across the table from one another. It's the only thing that's that is left. It's like people don't have no friends, so they don't have no one to gossip with. So it's like they're living vicariously for other people, and that is the only thing that's left for you, because AI is going to take over your jobs. You know, you're going to be erased from history. They don't want you to own anything. They don't want you to be happy. No, right? They're going to probably force feed you some sort of pill where you think that, oh, this is going to make me happy. But it's just a chemical reaction that you're having, really, to the drugs on offer. You know, the only thing that's left is for you to decide whether you want to be an elite yourself, rise to the top, become someone who's famous, and live the life of a king. Go to royalinstinct.com and join me in building your kingdom. You can build your kingdom alongside me. Right, I'm looking for 100 people. Imagine 100 of us, right, rising to the top, right, living lives of luxury, right. You will never have to go on a date again. Women just be throwing themselves at you all day. You know, you have the best dating life. You have the best business deals will come to you, right? Money making deals, financial resources, everything, all the good stuff in life will come to you, right, very easily if you decide to become someone who's famous.
I think there are two huge issues at play. The first thing is I always tell people, if you're trying to engage in real, true political discourse, you're trying to understand people, don't ever start with the assumption that people are doing like evil, crazy stuff. I think that when you start from that perspective, you've already lost the ability to understand the other side. So,
I understand what he's trying to say, but it's like, you know, human beings aren't charitable by nature. Human beings are we're resource seeking machines, right? We all we care about is survival and reproduction, right? To reproduce, you need to attract a partner, right? To ensure survival, you need resources, so food, shelter, right? How do you protect yourself from someone stealing it, right? Like back in the day, it used to be you might have a stick to fend someone off. Now you have machine guns, right? Now you might have a hand grenade that you can throw at someone, right? And this keeps evolving until you have two nations, or sorry, multiple nations across the world pointing nuclear weapons at each other, right? Like it's the basic instinct is protection and survival with a stick, and it leads to half the world having nuclear weapons pointing at each other and going to war for trillions of dollars, you know, wasting human potential, wasting human lives, just so Russia can get an inch of territory, so it just feels a little bit safer. So Ukraine has a right to protect its borders. It's a fucked world that we live in, right? How do you solve it? How do you solve it? There is no solving it. It's you. It's every man for himself. It's that you protect yourself, and the best way to protect yourself is by having resources, which is money, so you can buy the resources, and by having a kingdom where you have followers, where you are seen as the leader of your tribe, of your kingdom, of your community, and it's the only thing that's left that you can truly call your own, because everything else, governments and nation states will try and meddle in.
People on the left that want like trans kids legitimately feel like, or a lot of them legitimately feel like there are children that are in need that have to get some medical stuff to make their lives workable, basically. And I think that probably comes from a place of compassion, generally speaking. I think that when people on the right are fighting against stuff related to trans kids, I think they genuinely believe that there are a lot of children that can get confused and then get swept up in online communities and then start taking medication or hormones and they don't know what's going on, and it's going to be damaging to them. And I think it generally comes from a place of compassion. I think it's important to start from there, because if you start from the place of like, well, my enemy is trying to destroy the country for XYZ reasons, you're totally lost.
And, we're also in a cold war with other nations who want to be the dominant force in the world. You have to understand that good intentions can be hijacked as well for personal gain of other people, right? So, he might say, oh, all these things come from a place from compassion. It's very easy to manipulate someone who is compassionate about climate change, right, for their own agenda, to bring in laws that benefit manufacturers of electronic vehicles compared to people who manufacture petrol-based cars, right?
Lost, right? The people that did the insurrection on January 6th, I imagine they genuinely thought that the election was stolen. They really did think that that election was stolen and that there was some crazy stuff happening, and that's why they had to go to the White House and try to stop the, the confirmation of the vote and everything. I genuinely believe that they thought that. Not that they were just like, we're going to mess everything up right now, because we're some real bad dudes. I think that I only say that because usually when corporations make mistakes, I think that they're usually trying their best, because when a lot of people are involved, I think they're usually trying their best. Now, if it's just like one or two people involved, sometimes like personal agendas can really mess things up. But if it's a lot of people involved, the idea that there's like this top-down order of like, okay, guys, fuck white people, we're gonna do this, we're gonna edit them out, we're gonna make.
It's not about fuck white people. It's about hiding the truth. Right. So a lot of these social media platforms are becoming news outlets in their own right. Okay. If they decide what they filter and what they don't filter, then making a narrative, right? And then it's a very slippery slope for them to controlling the agenda, for them to control their views onto you. And those views aren't always, correct. Again, it comes down to who do you trust. Like, we live in a world where I don't feel like you can trust anyone. That's why I'm trying to find 100 like-minded people who see the world as I do, who understand what I'm trying to say, who are trying to find truth the way I'm trying to find it and build communities. The people who work with me, right, I'm preparing them to become kings in their own right, to build their kingdoms, and they will have communities who thrive under them. So imagine that each king has like 10,000 followers, right? That's one king with 10,000 followers, and now there's 100 of these people, right? That's so 10,000, and there's 100 of these, that's 1 million people, right? So we find we're building a network of kings. If you feel like you are a king, I can help you become someone who's famous, someone who has their own kingdom. I'm looking for 100 people. If you think like, oh, I've got no special talent, how do I do this? It's like, don't worry, you can work with me. I'll teach you how to become a subject matter expert. It takes less than a year to do this. You just need to have the balls to go into the unknown, to battle the demons in the world, to battle your own inner demons, to become someone who's confident enough in your own skin, right? What I mainly help people is help them find comfort in their own skin, someone find comfort in their own abilities, become the most confident version of themselves. And that's the only thing that's left. That's the only thing AI can't compete against you. They can't replicate you as a person yet. Although, you know, all these deep fakes might have you thinking otherwise. You know, there's not long left for you to do this. If you believe that you deserve the high life, if you believe that you deserve all the most gorgeous women chasing you, if you believe that you deserve all the money making opportunities that the world has to offer, go to rawinstinct.com and join the mentorship, join the coaching, and let's build your kingdom, let's build my kingdom, and together we'll become kings and rule the world. But until next time,